Well, with the official sequel coming out next weekend, it's time to review the original classic that started it all. So the Blair Witch Project is a found footage horror film that follows 3 college students as they venture into the woods to film a documentary and try and discover the origins of a local legend known as the Blair Witch. And to help me review the Blair Witch Project, I have my good pal Emma from her channel Spooky Astronauts. So with that being said, let's get into the Blair Witch Project. Now before I get into my positives, I gotta tell you guys, the Blair Witch Project is one of the rarest occurrences in which my opinion or my thoughts have drastically changed, either from good to bad or bad to good. In this case, going from me thinking it's one of the most overrated films ever made to one of the scariest films ever made. Alright, so let me tell you guys a little backstory of my first viewing of the Blair Witch Project. This was at a time when I did not truly appreciate horror films at the time. I wanted horror films to be full of jump scares while still have good acting in them, and just not to be all around boring. I did not have that concept in my mind of the fear of the unknown. I believe I was in middle school, and I remember everyone was telling me that since I'm a horror buff, that I needed to see the Blair Witch Project, that I would be scared out of my mind. So I finally watched and I just thought, where are all the jump scares? Where are the scares in this movie? This is boring as can be. And I remember just going to school the very next day just saying, that movie was not good. I was bored, in fact. Alright, now cut to 2 months ago. And I just find out that Blair Witch, Adam Wingard's new film, the official sequel to Blair Witch Project, was just announced. And I figured, you know what? I'm gonna give the Blair Witch Project a second chance. And me and my pal Sarah watched it together. And I don't know what it was. There's something about the rewatch. This time, my rewatch of this film changed my thoughts about this film completely. This film scared the crap out of me. This is not your typical horror film. It really is not. This is one of those films that doesn't rely on cheap scares. This film relies on the characters and their situation to build the tension, and then the scares come later, and it's genius. All the acting, believe it or not, is all improvised. The directors, who I'm not gonna try and name because I know I'm gonna butcher their names, so I'll put their names right there. But I really like the fact that directors did not give them a script, that they just give them like an outline, a general outline, which is what some directors do. The thing I really like about this film the most is that the horror of this film really relies on being isolated in the woods, because people don't realize that the depth of a certain woods area can be much larger than anticipated, which I really dug about this movie when people were saying it's just a local woods area. No, these woods in particular are pretty damn huge. When they get deeper and deeper, the tensions rise. My favorite scenes in the entire movie lie in the darkness when all of the true horror comes in because of one thing: the fear of the unknown. Now, cut back to when I first tried to watch the film. I did not have an appreciation of the fear of the unknown yet, because I was at the time more scared of actually seeing things. But after playing especially Silent Hill, I realized, well, that is for me, of course, that if I can't see the thing, the evil thing, I'm gonna be freaked out even more. And this film solidifies the fear of the unknown, especially in the dark. You don't know what's going on, and not knowing what is there honestly scared me even more. Hearing random sounds and not knowing where they're coming from is probably the most horrifying thing about this film, besides the tension between the characters that builds as the film goes along. And in particular, there's this one scene, 2 scenes actually, that just terrified me to the core. The 3 campers, you know, Heather, Josh, and there's somebody else. It was Heather, Josh, and somebody else. I'll put his name right here. And they started hearing the sounds of little children laughing. Now, if anything, that freaks me out the most out of anything. I remember getting goosebumps. The shaking of the tent happens, and then I'm not gonna lie, if I was them, I would have ran right out with them, because I would have been terrified. I put myself in their shoes, and I was just thinking, yep, I'd be just as scared as they were. In fact, I'd probably crapping my pants at that point. And also the ending scene of this film is probably one of the most chilling horror endings I have ever seen. The ending scene of this film, I remember, even when I didn't like it, scared the crap out of me. I remember when I watched it for the second time, I was terrified of walking outside out of my friend's place. My pal Sarah was to me, she said, thank God I don't have to walk outside, and I said, I have to drive home tonight. So yeah, and I remember as soon as I walked outside, I remember my car was parked right in front of her place, and I just thought, oh thank God. And as soon as I got back to my place, I took a few steps out of my car, I heard the most random noise, and I just thought, nope, 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 nope. I started speed walking right into my place because I was terrified of what was outside of my car. I'll probably rewatch it again to see if it really does hold up, but honestly, I feel like this movie holds up over the test of time. I truly believe it does. In terms of cons, there is one scene that I do think stretches on a little long. And it's a scene where Josh is lost and Heather and the other camper, again I don't remember his name, and they're screaming, Josh! 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 I just thought, okay, you can cut the scene at any moment here. It's gone for a little long. All in all, despite that one scene that goes on for a little long, The Blair Witch Project is easily one of the scariest horror films I have ever seen, and it is definitely one of the best found footage movies I've ever seen. This movie develops its scares through tension, through the events that happen, and is easily one of the most chilling endings I have seen in a horror film. So overall, I'm gonna give The Blair Witch Project a 4. You know what? I really did this. I'm gonna give The Blair Witch Project a 4.75 out of 5, just because that one scene drags you down just a tad little bit, but nonetheless, if you're a fan of found footage horror films, you love horror films in general, I suggest you give this film a shot. I gave this film a second chance, and turns out I loved it. Alright guys, since you just heard my thoughts on The Blair Witch Project, it is time to pass over to my friend Emma to give her thoughts. So Emma, take it away, my friend.
Cheers, Austin, and thank you for having me on your review for The Blair Witch. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and that's a huge statement for me to make, but believe it, I love this movie, and I'm gonna quickly recap what the movie's about. I'm sure you guys already know. In my eyes, the film is about a bunch of film students who are actually researching a local legend, and this local legend is the Blair Witch. They interview people from the town, and then they go into the woods to hit key points which are in the story. From there, things start to get strange, and then things start to get scary when they get lost. The film definitely has a unique vibe to it, and it definitely brought back found footage in a huge way for horror. Obviously, the first found footage film in horror, I guess arguably, would be Cannibal Holocaust. But this film was very different. This film was done in a more realistic way through authentic characters and natural dialogue. And dialogue is key in this film, mostly because every single line has a meaning and has a purpose. And you may not know that when you watch it for the first time. For example, when they're interviewing the locals, there is a little girl who has her hand over her mother's mouth while she's talking about the Blair Witch. Another one of these subtle details happens when a man is interviewed and he is talking about how they would kill one person at a time, having the others face a corner of the room. And if you don't know what that relates to, you definitely need to check it out because you're in for a good shock. I know that dialogue is very important to any film, but this film, every single piece of dialogue means something, and that's whether it's character development or the relationship between characters, or even something that's gonna come back around. One thing I really like about this original type of found footage is the fact that nothing is filmed that shouldn't be filmed. There's a lot of movies out at the moment which are found footage, and they film every single aspect of what's going on, where this is more realistic. The only time they're gonna pick up the camera is when they actually wanna document that, and it's also shown in a natural way where if they're filming somebody and they walk around some trees, there's not perfect sound. You can't hear them. It's more of a realistic type of found footage, especially compared to what we have today, where you can kind of see some wide shots and then you can also see the found footage camera. In this one, you only see found footage. But one of the things I love the most about this film is the pacing. It happens so gradually, but all at once, and it's kind of amazing that the film doesn't go for that long. I think it's just under an hour and a half, yet it is so impacting, and the journey the characters take through their mental state is immense. It's so easy to be dragged into the storyline and watch the characters slowly go from sane to insanity. And they go from being friends and having drinks, staying up late, getting drunk, to getting mad at each other, and then even threatening to kill each other at points. I think that it's so natural, and it really worked with the whole gimmick of the film being real found footage. All of these aspects together make for a really frightening horror movie, and it's not scary because there's jump scares everywhere. It's scary because it's all in their heads to an extent. You don't actually see anything, there's no special effects, it's all worked out in logistics. And isn't that scary? The fact you don't see anything and it's known as one of the most terrifying movies you can watch. I know what you guys are thinking. It's really easy for me to sit here and tell you how much I love one of my favorite horror films. But there's actually something I really don't like about this film, and it's the rewatchability factor. Although this film doesn't have a huge twist like spoiler, Fight Club, or The Sixth Sense, the first watch is definitely the most impact you can get from the film. Because like I said, the character, the dialogue, and the way it's shot really suck you in. And you're just wondering what's gonna happen next and what's gonna happen to these characters. And once you see what happens, there's really no going back. So I'm kind of jealous of you guys who haven't seen this film. If you haven't, you need to check it out. I'm gonna give this one a personal score of 9, obviously. I'm gonna give it a scare score of 8 because I do think it is a terrifying movie. And if you don't believe me, I dare you to watch this at midnight in the dark by yourself. And for originality, I'm gonna give it a 7. It's not very original today, but for its time, it was. And I'm actually gonna give it another score, and this score is for rewatchability. I'm gonna give it a 6 for that. I know that you hardcore fans will probably watch this movie a billion times like I have, but it doesn't really have the same impact after the first watch. Thank you so much for having me on your channel, Austin, for the Blair Witch review. Guys, stay tuned because next week on my channel, we're gonna be reviewing the new Blair Witch, and I'm so excited, and I hope you guys will tune in for that. Thanks for having me, Austin, and thanks guys for watching.
That was Emma's and I review of the Blair Witch Project, guys. Please comment and let us know down below, what did you guys think of the Blair Witch Project? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's overrated? Let us know below. Again, guys, I want to thank Emma so much for appearing with me in my review of the Blair Witch Project. Stay tuned next weekend for our review of Blair Witch on her channel. My review of Blair Witch will not be up on this channel, but it will be with Emma on her channel, Spooky Astronauts. Guys, please go subscribe to Emma. Her channel is awesome. She does great videos. She is personally my favorite horror reviewer on YouTube. Go check her out, not only just for our review, but just check her out for... not check her out. Check out our videos, I mean. If you guys liked Emma and I's review of the Blair Witch Project, please like and share this video. Click right here, and until the next review or our review of Blair Witch next weekend on her channel, we will see you guys, or I will see you guys, next time.